Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our final session with Sister Zahra Makki for our series of inner harmony through worship and devotion. Just to tell you a little bit more about Zahra, I'm sure you've all been enjoying the sessions. Sister Zahra Makki is a graduate of philosophy from the American University of Beirut and is currently completing her master's in philosophy. She was born and raised in the United States and moved to Lebanon at the age of 19, where she currently resides. During Zahra's time in Lebanon, she pursued traditional studies at the Islamic Seminary alongside her academic work. Zahra's research interests include gender studies, Western philosophy, and traditional Islamic thought. She has most recently been engaged in life coaching women on embracing an Islamically rooted feminine identity in the modern world. We hope that you enjoy and benefit from the talk, and please don't forget to share the event with your friends and family. I'd like to welcome Zahra. Assalamu alaikum, sister. I think you're muted still.
That should be okay. Assalamu alaikum. I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you so much for the intro and for having me.
Thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you guys so much for being here with us over the next few weeks. Alhamdulillah, I feel like we had a really nice and fruitful time together. So over the first 2 weeks, we began speaking about the fitrah. And we spoke about how the thing which makes us fundamentally what we are is this fitratullah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ingrained in each and every one of us. And we said that this fitrah is a good fitrah because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not ambiguous in the way in which He depicts it. He says it's fitratullah. And so it's a positive fitrah. It's a fitrah that is supposed to take us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the best way to imagine it is to imagine a magnet, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the metal that's called absolute perfection, that's called Kamal Mutlaq, that's called the origin of all joy, all love, all goodness in this world, which everyone seems to be seeking. And we spoke about how oftentimes we mislocate the origins of this goodness, of this joy, of this happiness in the material world, in people, in relationships, in material things. And oftentimes we get disappointed, we fall into perplexities, we become depressed, we become very sad individuals because we continuously mislocate where we are to look and find this kamal, this perfection, this love, and this happiness. And we spoke about how if this fitrah is something which is fundamentally good, how it is that people oftentimes, are not fundamentally good, that oftentimes they engage in very bad deeds and are very oppressive to other people and their own selves. So how could it be that this positive fitrah that's supposed to be that thing which orients us to God, which is supposed to be that thing which is practically a compass for us towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oftentimes gets veiled? Now, how does this veiling happen? We spoke about two things which happen to the individual. We spoke about how the individual, the soul of the individual, the fitrah of the individual is always between two things, shahwa and ghadab, desire and anger. Now, these are two faculties of the self which stem from the body, and they're not inherently bad faculties. So unlike Christians and Christianity, who propose that the flesh is something which is inherently bad, Islam is not like that. Islam says that there are positives to desires and there's positives to anger. Like, for example, the oppression that's going on in Palestine right now. Expressing your ghadab in this instance is to be honorable, it's to be just, it's to be honest. And likewise with the certain desires that we engage in life, it's a positive thing when exercised within bounds. So the first thing that we said is that these two faculties are actually good faculties, that these are faculties that are not inherently bad faculties. But where does the oppressiveness come? This happens because these two faculties have something very unique about themselves, and that's these two faculties are actually infinite faculties within the human being, meaning they never end. Your shahwa is never satisfied. Your ghadab is never satisfied. So meaning, if you are hungry and you eat, there is still another aspect of your faculty of desire that's going to demand something else from you at that moment. So the desire for comfort, the desire for pleasure is endless. Once you get that thing which you desire, it satisfies you for a short period of time before you want more, before you need a second dose. before you need to seek out the next thing. And so this idea of the grass is always greener on the other side is actually an idea that comes oftentimes from this faculty of desire within us, that oftentimes takes us away from exercising contentment and finding peace and solace in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in our circumstances. Now, given that these two faculties are eternal faculties, not eternal, but are endless faculties, are infinite faculties, something must constrain these faculties, we said, right? Now, what is that thing that has to come in and constrain these two faculties? We said that it's the intellect and the revelation. So intellect and revelation come and they take the master seat in the soul. And they say, okay, desire, now is the time you can show yourself. Now is the time you can show yourself. Anger, likewise. It's pretty much that thing which orients your entire body into harmony, because it tells you when it's right to express what. That's your intellect. And so in order to constrain and confine, you have your intellect. But in addition to your intellect, we said there's also Sharia. So the basis of Sharia is to put constraints on the self. Why? So that the higher self can manifest itself, so that you can actually experience and taste true freedom. That's what Sharia comes and does. And so we oftentimes mistake Sharia as being that thing which we conform to, which we serve, when in truth, Sharia is that thing which serves our own self, it serves our own fitrah by helping us and giving us a plan of action that allows us to actualize and experience this higher self, this self which is unbound by materiality, which isn't so entrenched in the next thing. So this is a brief account of our first 2 weeks together. And one of the things that we said is that this is a bit theoretical. So it's a bit, it's a bit in the air. How can we take these theoretical concepts that we spoke about and actually develop them into a plan of action? Because we don't want just theory. Shahr Ramadan is not supposed to be all about lectures and theory. It's supposed to be about practice, because theory in your mind, if not put into practice, is useless. One of the things that our scholars say is that knowledge itself can be one of your biggest veils on the path to God. Why? Because ego grows with knowledge, but sometimes yourself doesn't grow in humility. You don't actually practice what you know. And this is why on the Day of Judgment, a lot of the people that are going to be asked and questioned before God are the knowers, because they were the ones that knew and didn't act upon their knowledge. So we're going to talk today about what are the practical things that we can do to purify ourselves from the bounds of, these chains of shahwa and ghadab, which veil our fitrah from actualizing its true potential on this journey. So what we're going to talk about today is things that we can do, practical things that we can put into action in order to begin this journey. And inshallah, this is a great way to conclude our series and begin after Shahr Ramadan concludes. So the first thing that we want to underscore is that this program is not a program which deals with only actions. Those physical actions that we take and that we commit to. Actions are important. Yes, there are duties that we need to account for, that we need to carry out, but there's something even more essential to action. There's something even more foundational to what we should be doing, and that's the alteration of our soul and the habits of the self. So the ethics of the self, the akhlaq of the self, the malakat of the self, meaning what are the attributes, what are the patterns of thoughts, what are the habits and the ways of life that we have internalized within ourselves, these malakat, that's what it means, that have become so second nature and so habitual that for us they're so ingrained in our suluk, in our etiquette, and how we traverse this journey. And malakat can be positive things, like for some people a malaka can be, praying regularly. That's a positive malaka. That same person can have a negative malaka, which is the malaka to continuously delay their prayers. So yes, I'm someone who carries out the 5 daily prayers, but I'm also someone who continuously does not pray on time, or doesn't really prioritize the praying on time, for example, in my life. So now I have another malaka, which is not necessarily positive, which is the natural delaying of prayer without really realizing that that's not something I should be doing. But all of the actions which we commit to, even like salat al-layl, let's say if it's something that we commit to, or even our daily prayers each day, are actually precursors to something even more fundamental. Because a lot of times when we speak about someone being a good Muslim, what is the first thing people say? Bisalli wa bisum. They fast and they do their 5 prayers. That's sort of how we delimit the Muslim. But a Muslim is something actually fundamentally more than that, because the fast of the Muslim and the prayer of the Muslim is actually supposed to cultivate within them something higher, which is a humble, purified self, a humble, purified soul. So what is it, this prayer and this fasting that we do, that we find ourselves 60 years later still the same person, still the same habits, still the same anger, still the same ego, still the same lack of humility? So that means that the purpose of the salat, that thing which it was supposed to cultivate within us, is actually not being attained. And so this is a scary thing. This is why the scholars say that if you want to know whether or not your prayer is accepted, because that's something that we ask a lot, like, how do I know that my 5 daily prayers are accepted? They say that look at how you are after your prayers. Don't look at how you are during the prayer. If you want to know if the salat is accepted, look at how you act after the prayer. Like, people literally will be having a fight and be raging, and they'll pause the rage to do their salat and finish their tashahhud just to get back up and continue in their rage. For example, this is not a positive sign. Salat tanha an al-fahsha'i wal-munkar. Salat is supposed to bring you away from fahsha and munkar, from those negative things. And so if it's not doing that, then you're not really praying that true salat. So the first thing we have to realize is that these actions are precursors to something more fundamental, to really realize this. And that fundamental thing is the purification of the self. Now, the second thing is any change. Right now we want to talk practice, right? Any change that we want to implement in our life begins with determination. Azim, jihadun nafs, struggling against the self, begins with azim. Azim is the key. Determination is the key. Any change that you want in your life, whether it is you want to gain weight, or you want to lose weight, or you want to go to the gym, or you want to pursue a certain career, none of that would be possible if it weren't for your resilience and your determination. So if you think that right now we're going to be talking something relating to the spiritual journey, and it's going to be something simple, and it's going to be something easy, that's not the case. Just like you have to put in the work for all of the other things that you're seeking out in life, just like you're putting the work for your children to be good people, just like you're putting the work in your schooling to be really remarkable, or your work to really climb up the ladder. If you can't apply that same resilience towards building a good soul, then you're in the wrong place. You're not making this a priority. So the first thing is recognize, do you really want this? Do you really want to become better on the inside? A lot of us come to these lectures taking for granted that we've already made this a conscious decision, that we've already made the decision that we're coming here to be better. But have we? Have we actually made that decision? So first thing is, have I made a conscious decision that I actually want to change? Or am I just here to feel better about myself? Am I just here to feel a little bit of a spiritual high that I can indulge in for a little while during the month of Ramadan, but knowing that I don't actually want any real change in my life? And if you don't want any real change in your life, that's fine. That's you. You've already limited your capacity, and you're going to have to live with that decision every day for the rest of your life. You're going to have to be enchained to the chaos of shahwa and ghadab for the rest of your life, but that's your choice. But if you really want this, if you really want to grow as a human being and become a true human being, a good human being on the inside, in your core, then you actually have to begin with resilience. You have to know that right now I'm making, first of all, a conscious decision that I want to change. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be a 180 change, right? In the beginning, we said 1%. Make a conscious decision that truly I'm going to change 1% of who I am this year, for example, or this month, whatever it takes to make that a conscious decision. And once you make a decision, what do you need to go through with that decision? You need azim. There are no shortcuts. There are no magic pills. There's no voodoo that you can do to make you suddenly better. What you need is to be determined and resilient every single day of your life, because we're not very fortunate at the moment. We live in a world where everything around you is trying to take you away from God. Everywhere you look. You want to look at billboards, you want to look at your screen, you want to watch a television show, whatever it is, everything is designed to take you away from the sacred. So if you don't get in the habit of putting in that resilience every day, it's so easy to be taken by the wave. So to constantly be on edge and to realize that you have to be determined. Why determination? Because this is a very important point. If you're someone who's after, I don't want to be a mediocre human, I want to be a good human. If you're after that kamal mutlaq, which we said the fitrah is after, if you're after that wholeness, because Kamal is not just perfection, it's wholeness, it's to feel whole, then that has to come from your own choice. Perfection can never be attained from anything but your own choice. Sometimes people say that, why hasn't God made performing this action an obligation? Like, for example, giving sadaqah every day. Why isn't this not an obligation? It's a good thing to do, right? Or why hasn't God made this duty an obligation for this individual or for the mom or for the dad? Well, there's an element to it because God wants you to make that choice. Because when you make that choice, you soar towards your perfection a lot more because you're choosing. It's your choice. It's from your willpower. It's from the innermost parts of yourself. It's not simply duty bound. You're choosing to go the extra mile. And that choice is the difference between, the normal good person that's just good, that doesn't really change a lot on the inside, but then the really remarkable person that really soars to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout their journey. So this is a very important point. And really, if you want to be the best, if you want to be raised in the ranks above the angels, we always say to Imam Hussein during Ashura, Ya laytana kunna ma'akum fanafuza fawzan azima. I wish we were with you. We would have truly succeeded if we were with you. But we can still be with them. We can still be with them either with the Imam of our time in this world or with them in the hereafter for eternity. So if we really want to be with Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad, and not just a movement of the tongue, not just something we're saying on the tongue, but really in our heart, we have to make the decision right now, today. From now on, I'm going to be resilient. I'm going to have the internal willpower to traverse this journey of becoming better, even though I might not see instant results. That's why in Dua Kumel, what do we say? Allahumma قوي على خدمتك جوارحي واشدد على العزيمة جوانحي. Make me strong in serving you. This is something that we pray. Give me the willpower from within. Give me the determination to serve you. And one of the quotes of Imam Khomeini, which he narrates from his teacher, his Arfan teacher, is that إنما العزم جوهر الإنسانية. You want to know what humanity, what it means to be, human? You want to know what characterizes your humanity? It's how determined you are. This is why those who are not determined can fall below the ranks of the animals, and those who are determined fall or rise above the ranks of the angels. And I guess just going into this, knowing that this is a journey I need to be strong for, and it might not be this fun or easy journey in the beginning, I think is a very good way to enter this, because we think that because it's a spiritual journey, I need to be feeling spiritual immediately. No, just like in all of the things that we plant in life, it takes time to reap the fruits. This is something that takes perseverance, because once you taste the fruits of what you planted from your consistency, you will never let it go, but you have to persevere first. Imam Zain al-Abidin says, Ilahi man dha alladhi dhaqa halawata mahabbatika farama minka badala. Who could have tasted the sweetness of your love and then wanted another in place of you? So first, it's a process to begin to taste that sweetness. So don't take it for granted that you're going to feel it immediately. Know that it's something you have to persevere for, but it will come. For sure, it will come. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes this promise in the Quran, وَمَنْ جَاهَدَ فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. And whoever strives in our way, we will guide him to our path, guide her to our path. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, it's a promise, but first strive, struggle. And Imam Ali says that strength is not the strength of someone against another person. True strength is to be strong against your own self. So this is the strength that we want to begin to cultivate, that we want to go into this program, keeping in the back of our minds that it's something that we have to be strong for. It's not going to come easy. And what's beautiful is right now is the perfect time to talk about this. This is why I left the practical dimension towards the end of Shahr Ramadan. Shahr Ramadan, fasting, is the time where azima is built, where determination is built. Fasting gives you not only is it a worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it helps you reclaim authority and command over your body by denying it food and drink. This gives you a taste of just how strong you are. Without Islam, who amongst us can go sunrise to sundown without water, for example? It's hard. It's very hard. You know, right now, places in the Middle East, I'm currently in a place in the Middle East at the moment, it's 100 degrees. You know, imagine, right? So who could bear that? And yet, subhanAllah, everyone does every year. They bear it, they take it. Why? It's because, subhanAllah, they're cultivating their azm. The first week, it's hard. You get to the end of it, it's like, you know, I can actually do this if I had to for another month. Really, if I had to, we probably all could. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not just, He's not just bringing you in to fast just so that you can say, I fasted Shahr Ramadan. Maybe He wants you to see something. Maybe He wants to say, like, look, oh insan, look what you're capable of. Like, really, pat on the back, it's not easy. Look what you're capable of. So if you really want to take on this journey, you're capable of doing so much more. So if you're able to stop drinking water for a whole month from, you know, Fajr all the way to sundown, then believe me, this journey will be easy for you. So this is actually a practice of building determination in the insan. Fasting helps us do that. And towards the end of Shahr Ramadan, I think all of us feel a bit more of a spiritual aptitude. We feel like we're able to do a bit more. Why? It's because we've actually built resilience without us really realizing. So that's the first thing. So this is a good time to talk about this because a lot of us end our spiritual journey when Shahr Ramadan ends, but it's actually the perfect time to start because you're building off momentum, you're building off determination and the resilience that you've practiced for the past 30 days. So this is a great time. So we said two things so far. The first thing is that realizing that every action we perform to be a Muslim, to be a good person, a good Muslim, all of these actions that we perform are actually precursors to building this good self, this akhlaqi self, this ethical self. Our salat is actually supposed to take us to something which fundamentally underlies it, which is a pure heart, a good heart. And the second thing is to realize that the program of training the self, reforming the self, uplifting the self, it's impossible to commit to this program without first committing to the idea that this will require from me internal drive, internal willpower, consistency, azm, and determination. Okay, so this is the 2 points that we've covered so far. Now we're going to bring it all together because we're going to talk about something we can now implement, every one of us, that we're already practicing, but we can get so much out of this practice if we just practice this thing with conscientiousness. So this journey, this practical journey that we want to embark on consists of two paths. It's two paths. And they're traveled simultaneously. So it's not that you take one path and then you take the other. No, it's two journeys that you traverse at the same time. The first is an internal journey. The second is a bodily journey. With regards to the internal journey, it begins with thought and reflection. 1 hour of contemplation is better than, some hadith say, 60 or 70 years of worship. We've all heard this hadith, but each one of us, let me ask you, when was the last time you actually contemplated for 1 hour? Did you ever contemplate for 1 hour? Telling you, like, you put your phone aside and you thought deeply about a matter. For example, the matter of, shukr or gratitude. Maybe you were going through something in life. Did you ever actually take a time and reflect deeply without touching a screen or putting in your AirPods or your headphones or looking at your laptop? Have you actually ever spent 1 hour in contemplation? The Prophet used to go often to Ghar Hira, to the cave of Hira, and just reflect and just think. Abraham alayhi salam, Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, what did he used to look? When he was searching for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he was looking in the skies. He went through this active meditation in order to, the Sayyid of Ibrahim, in order to arrive at his Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but only after he was looking and seeking and thinking and reflecting. So that's the first thing, thought and reflection. People keep saying, but these are too simple. Have you actually put these simple things into practice? Beginning with myself, right? Have we actually? So yes, it is a return to the basics that our imams have been telling us about for so many years. And if you realize, the more you grow up, the more this world gets technological. What is the one thing we all yearn for? A return to the basics. What do we remember? What are we nostalgic over? It's always the simple times, the simple things. At the end of your life, it's always the simple things that you're going to remember. Part of it is these simple parcels of wisdom that the imams have left for us: contemplation, thought, and reflection. Not only that, it's also to speak and converse with the self. So there's an element of this contemplation that actually involves an internal dialogue with yourself. For example, we have the Quranic verse, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyatuha an-nafsu al-mutma'inna, irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyya, right? Where you're speaking to the self, O contented soul at rest, return to your Lord, pleased and well-pleasing. This is a conversation that you're having with the self. And we need to have not just this conversation, we need to have so many conversations. Sometimes the self requires convincing. Sometimes the shahwa is so strong that the intellect has to actually manifest in words, or sometimes journaling, if that's what you're into, writing, telling yourself, listen, I know you're having struggle performing X action, but I'm going to remind you that you need to do this. Why? Because of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To have that active conversation with yourself. I know you're going through a hard time, but I need you to be patient. Patience is what builds a good human being. For example, just like you would speak to a child, to have that conversation constantly with the self, your self needs you. It needs you to speak to it. It needs your tarbiyah. It needs you to literally, just like you raise a child and you discipline a child, you need to be performing that same thing with yourself each and every day. And it can take the form of, just mindfully thinking, right? And like talking and reflecting over your day, or it can even take the form of journaling. And so I recommend either or, whatever you need to sort of speak to the self, reprimand the self, guide the self, do it. Imam Ali says that the self is raised upon the laps of individuals, meaning just like you raise a child on your lap, your self needs you to sometimes tell it the words that it needs to hear, even if it wants to do otherwise, to reaffirm with the language of the tongue, over and over, consistently reminding it until it takes on these lessons and internalizes these lessons, just like a child, like we said. Now, what's really nice about this internal state, this internal journey, is that you can take it wherever you are, wherever you're standing. You can be having this journey inside of you when you're sitting on a train on the way to school or commuting. You can have this journey within you when you have all your kids around you and they're overwhelming you with their needs. And you just take a moment to just close your eyes and take a deep breath. Unfortunately, especially in the Lebanese community, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, that phrase, it's only used, as a threat. Like, when your mom says that, like, that means you're really getting on her nerves. But it must have started from actually someone saying that because they really needed to affirm that power lies in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only. But over time now, it's just a threat. Like, okay, I said that means that you're really getting on my nerves. But know that even in that moment, you can traverse that journey. In that moment where you just close your eyes and take a deep breath, maybe mumble a word of dhikr, that itself is traversing the internal journey. And if you think that these small things don't have an effect, you're so wrong. These adhkar throughout the day are your constant returning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We belong to God and to Him we return, not just in our kafan, when we're put under the dirt. Every day, in the moments where we need Him most, inna ilayhi raji'un, we're returning to Him constantly, that motion. So how do we achieve this? It's really through conscientiousness. And it's hard because this isn't basic. Conscientiousness is not basic. A lot of us are plagued with this disease of being constantly distracted and on autopilot. And the world around us, unfortunately, doesn't make it easy. There are things and distractions all around us. And so to be conscious and aware, moment to moment, is what will make the world of a difference in your spiritual journey. And this word conscientiousness, now it's such a buzzword in, American and Western literature. Consciousness, gratitude, presence, for example. But our Arafat have been saying this for years, to practice muraqabah. To practice, literally, muraqabah means is to oversee oneself. Conscientiousness, to constantly be watching over yourself, to be aware of your actions, to be aware of your thoughts. Why am I speaking this way? Why am I so frustrated? Why am I projecting certain feelings that I'm having that maybe I shouldn't be having, or I'm not justified to be having out on these people or this relationship? Why am I reacting constantly out of my shahwa and my ghadab, my desire and my anger? Why am I not reacting from that thing which makes me human, right? Why am I not reacting from my mind, from my fitrah? So to keep an eye out on your actions. Why am I about to post this? Why am I liking this? Why am I promoting this? This, constant suspecting of the self, of the nafs, which can really take us to the worst of the worst, is a night and day change in who you are. If you do it consistently, 40 days, where you're consistently, just aware of the things that you're thinking and saying and posting, your life will change 180. Do it for 40 days, your life will change 180. If there isn't something you can click on, or a link that you can click on, or something that you can post, or a text that you can send without saying Bismillah before you do any of those things, then maybe you shouldn't be doing them. So this is one way in which you're constantly aware. Like that music video that you're about to click on, can you say Bismillah and then click on it? Probably not. So this is one way in guilt tripping yourself to not do it. So this is one way in which you exercise muraqabah. Very practical way. Another practical way is constant salawat. Our imams say that's the best dhikr that you can do is salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So that consistent returning to dhikr before you're about to do anything, when you're about to step away from the house. I feel like these practices were a lot more common in our parents, but I feel like we've lost them. And I think it's partially because we undermine their value, despite our imams and our scholars constantly emphasizing how much these small things have served them on their journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the first journey, and it's an internal journey, and it's a journey that you can traverse in a moment, and just closing your eyes. It can be traversed in the car, it can be traversed on the train, it can be traversed in the chaos of life. You can do this all the time. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Constantly return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and really seek refuge in Him. Now, the second path is the bodily path, and it relates to reforming the actions which relate to the body. There's so many ways and avenues that we can begin to talk about this in terms of habits, practical habits that we do, habits relating to physiology, relating to mental thoughts. This is a whole thing. But there's one habit that we all perform every single day. And what's interesting about this habit is that, first of all, it's fundamental to our deen. But second of all, it's not like none of us don't perform it, inshallah. We all perform it. But none of us perform it right, which is interesting. It's like if we're putting all that time every single day for the rest of our life to perform this one action, why not get the most out of my time and perform it right if I'm performing it anyways? And it's the action of salat, your 5 daily prayers. So we're not saying salat al-layl here either. Like it's not something extra to your day that you're now having to add to traverse the spiritual journey. No, it's this idea that, okay, you're praying every day. Let's talk about a way in which we can improve our salats. And, our imam says, salat mi'raj al-mu'min. The salat is the mi'raj, it's the ascension of the mu'min. The worthiest, holiest journey that we have within our tradition is the mi'raj that the Prophet goes on. It's the point at which the Prophet reaches 2 bows length or nearer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that no individual has ever reached or will ever reach, this closeness. Where Jibreel looks at Prophet Muhammad and says, if I go further, I will melt, I will burn. Because he couldn't behold the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like the Prophet could. This is the Mi'raj. And so when Salat is likened to the most holiest event within our tradition, that means that Salat is supposed to truly be a transformative experience. Now, how can Salat really be a transformative experience? There are 2 things that we have to keep in mind. The first thing is to remember and to realize, maybe not remember, because I don't feel like really we realize this to begin with, but to realize that right now when I'm praying, Anta fi mahdarillah, you are now in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is being upon you. I know in our limited minds, we can't begin to understand how this could be possible, because you think about looking, you think about 2 eyes, and you think about how, a person can only look at another person at one point. They can't look at a whole, crowd all at the same time, let alone an entire universe. So how can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be looking at me, this insignificant being, as I stand, in my, pajamas, wrinkled clothes, quickly finishing up my salah so I can go to more important things. So it's hard for us to understand, and I just want to kind of give you grace and realize that I empathize. We're all like this. It's hard for us to imagine how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can be looking upon us. But we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't have these two eyes. And when we say look upon us, we don't really mean this physical looking that we're used to. But we're using this word just because it helps us our understanding, because we think, okay, looking, but does he really look, man? Looking, the way looking works, it doesn't really work for him to be looking at right? So you start going down that rabbit hole. So take a moment, take a deep breath, and realize that maybe we can't comprehend it. We're beings limited by these mental images formed with piecing together material images that we have. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is beyond that. But to realize with the eye of your heart, not with the eye of your mind that's bound to, material and mental images, bound with worldly things, okay? With the eye of the heart. Imam Ali says, I do not worship a God I do not see. He sees him with the eye of the heart. To realize with the eye of your heart that, yes, as I'm standing in these wrinkly pajamas with all of these things that I have to do now, rushing through my prayer, that actually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is really looking upon me. And he's saying, what are you rushing towards? Is it your finances that's occupying you when I'm the bestower of all riches? Is it your relationship that's occupying you when I am the bestower of all love? Is it your due dates that's occupying you when I am the creator of time, the manager of time? Like I can imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looking upon us and just, chuckling, just smiling, like, what are you doing? This rhetorical question, فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ? Where are you going? This ayah in the Holy Quran, we're all posing this question that we should pose to ourselves. Where are you going? هَارِبٌ مِنْكَ إِلَيْكَ. You're going from one thing to the next, but you're actually just returning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because everything that you're seeking apart from Him, He bestows. So during your salats, just to cultivate this awareness that whatever I'm worrying about, whatever that's occupying me or occupying my day, Allah is the manager of that. And as I stand, I'm actually standing before Him, and He's actually looking upon me, and He hears and He sees. Now, the second thing is that basically we have a hadith that says that salat, if it is accepted, everything apart from it that you offer to Allah is also accepted. But if it is returned, if it's not accepted, then everything else you offer to God is not accepted. It is also returned. So there's this thing that when you want to approach your salah, you want to really try to approach when you're most clear-minded, when you're most present. And yet we have to reconcile this with the idea that we should definitely always be praying on time. Like every scholar, even Allama Bahjat says, even if you're not present, pray on time. You have to pray on time. To traverse the spiritual journey, it does not make sense to delay your prayers, because it's not just I'm delaying dhuhr, God will understand. No, it's not about God understanding. It's about you understanding yourself that you're delaying this meeting with God. Do you actually understand that? Do you understand what you're prioritizing over your meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? God understands. It's us that forget, and with every delaying of the salats, we're becoming more forgetful of the fact that I have a meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I have to tend to, that my heart currently needs. And so this goes back to the first journey, the internal journey. So this is the physical act, but then at the same time, what does the heart need? It needs that conversation. It needs that sit down, even if you have to do it 3 times a day, even if you have to do it during Fajr and again during Dhuhr and again during Maghrib, and to remind it, heart, soul, I know you have so much on your plate right now. It's salah time. We have to pray. We need to go meet with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can't say that this paper or this phone call is more important than this meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have that sit down conversation with your mind, with your soul, with your heart. You come and you tell it, I know you want to do this. I know you're so habitually used to delaying prayer, right? That malaka we spoke about. Now we have to change. Why? Because meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is more important. You say that enough times to your soul, soon enough your soul will tell you it. When your body doesn't comply, your soul will be the one to give it that conversation. It requires consistency, daily conversations, daily reinforcement. But then there's this idea that, okay, then we said presence of heart, and we said praying on time. How can we reconcile the two? Let's say I'm not feeling present, and at the moment I'm feeling very disordered and disarray. And this matter itself, I think, is a very common matter that everyone goes through. And this is something that will return to not exactly the way you pray. It'll return to the way you live your life. And it's such a broad topic, right? So for me to bring it up now, but I think you can reflect on it yourself. First of all, if you're in constant chaos, that you can't approach your prayer mat to pray, you have to look at what are certain things, what kind of order can I apply in my life that will afford me 5 minutes before my salats each time to just reset. So this is a great practice. I recommend it to anyone. 5 minutes before your prayer to go through a sort of detox, an internal detox, to empty out everything within your heart, within your mind at the moment. Saduna, you need it. We all need it. This, like I said, this world doesn't make it easy for us. It literally fills you up, fills your heart, fills your mind up with so many things. Try to make sure that your day is programmed in a way that you don't just have 10 minutes for your prayer during Dhuhr time. You have 15. In that 5 minutes, prepare your heart, prepare your soul. The ideal thing is that your entire day is an extension of your prayer. So that your entire day is an extension of your dhikr. So like we said, in those moments where you're saying your dhikr, when things get overwhelming, you're having that internal presence, so that when it's time to have the external bodily presence in your soul,
Salam, Zahra, can you hear me? Hello.
guys are doing a great job. You got through Shahr Ramadan. Inshallah, you guys can definitely get to this journey of
Zahra,
bettering yourself.
can you hear me?
Yes.
I
Yes.
think we lost you for a good 2 minutes. It was completely robotic. So the last 2 minutes where you were speaking, we couldn't hear you.
Okay. Can you tell me exactly where it stopped?
I was trying to fix it, so
Okay.
maybe just back up a little bit.
Back up a little bit. Okay.
But the sound is good now. I'm sorry.
No, ما بيأثر. Okay, yes. So basically, I was giving practical advice as to how we can. So, inshallah, you guys heard. I said that before, to allocate your day in such a way where you have, instead of having 10 minutes during the time of salat, to have 15 minutes before. So add an extra 5 minutes and use that extra 5 minutes prior to the beginning of salat time to empty and to detox your mind, detox your heart. Qasim, are you aware if I said that already? If you guys heard that?
Yes.
Yes, you guys heard that. Okay,
Yeah.
I think I know where we left off. So I think we left off on the verse of the Holy Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Alam ya'lam bi anna Allah yara. So this was another rhetorical question where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks, do they not know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees? Are they not aware that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is seeing them? So Alam Ayatullah Bahjat was asked, what is one way where I can, stop sinning? And he said, just to reflect on this verse. Alam ya'lam bi anna Allah yara. Do they not realize that God sees, God sees, God sees? To repeat this dhikr, even before your prayer, to repeat this. So this is one way in which you can, this is one verse which you can meditate on. So this is one form of meditation that you can have, like this meditation upon a verse for 5 minutes. There's also the guided meditation that I spoke about, maybe with Ayatollah, or maybe with Sheikh Shawad Shumali. He has a few online. Or that internal conversing that we spoke about earlier, to have conversing with yourself, to tell yourself exactly what you're about to do, who you're standing in the presence of. Just like you would explain salah to a child, explain salah to your heart that way. Right now, O heart, we're about to stand in the presence of Allah, the creator of the universe, the seer of all, the bestower of all good, the beloved Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And everything that you're currently worrying about, maybe you can, make it personal and talk to your heart about everything it's worrying about, but just to remind that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees all, and He's actually taking care of all of these things. And now we just have to go and talk to Him and to reflect on Him and to be fully present in this court of divine grace, which is salat time, which is the mi'raj of the mu'min. So with that, I will conclude. There's a few things I was going to say, but I think this is a good place to stop. Inshallah, these are just practical tips whose worth and value, really, don't undermine them. I think what I would recommend, we know that 40 days is usually the golden number in our tradition for any habit. They say if you want to make or break any habit, 40 days, right? So if there's one habit that you can begin this Ramadan, you're saying that you want something really practical, then begin with the 5 minutes meditation prior to salah and salat on time. Do that for 40 days. And I promise you, new meanings, new light will dawn into your heart. Out of the barakah of praying on time, you will find that new things will open up within yourself. New attributes will open up within yourself. We have a hadith that says, and I think it's by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, من أخلص لله 40 صباحا جرت ينابيع الحكمة من قلبه على لسانه. Whoever is sincere in his devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for 40 mornings, then the fountains of wisdom will gush forth from his heart and upon his tongue. 40 mornings. So any act you want to begin, I recommend getting a spiritual partner, doing it together. Maybe if you guys have the same action, it's even better because you guys can check in with each other and hold each other accountable, right? Muraqaba and muhasaba, conscientiousness, but also taking yourself into account when you fail to hold your promises to yourself. And to begin with this praying on time, 5 minutes before, and then also the internal dhikr that we spoke about, whatever that could be, to consistently return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in moments throughout your day, and even the most mundane moments, to traverse the inner journey, the inner conversation, and the inner reminders and adhkar within the self. That is the path to really unveiling the fitrah. 40 days of increasing yourself and incrementally by 0.5 or 1% is slowly unshackling yourself from the veils of dunya, from the veils of materiality, and finally experiencing that true self, that spiritual self, that inner self that's free from the chaos of dunya, that's free from everything which really bogs us down in this world, to experience really the true self, the fitrah, the true self which will take you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And with that, I'll conclude. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Ma'jura, Sister Zahra, and thank you for your beautiful talk, and thank you for the examples that I think it was a perfect way to end this series of lectures, to give us practical advice, and especially now that Ramadan is coming to an end. It's always easy to kind of leave the good habits we make during Ramadan, to leave them behind us after
to build on that momentum. Yes,
yeah,
build
exactly.
on that momentum. Keep
exactly
going.
And so, thank you for all the advice, and thank you for all the talks. It's been a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, it's my pleasure.
So we have one question. Is there a limit to our spirituality, and is there a limit to the actions that we can perform to reach Kamal, or is there always more that a Muslim can do? So how can we keep pushing and progressing?
what's beautiful about the spiritual path is it's actually unlimited. There is no limit. There's no cap. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has endowed us with endless potential, and what's beautiful about this potential is that it's not external to us. It's actually internal. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't tell us, you want to tap into this potential, travel all the way to China, for example, or dive into the sea, you know, or go up into the seventh skies. It's not even something that we have to exert ourselves to, you know, pursue in all of these external areas. It's actually an internal potential. And what my teacher likened this to, he says it's like a code that was encoded within you. All of the answers that you seek, all of the enlightenment that you seek. And enlightenment, I mean it like in the true sense of the word, enlightenment, like light. All of the light which you seek is actually within you. You just have to kind of input the code and tap into it. And Imam Ali reinforces this with this idea, you know, أَتَحْسَبُ أَنَّكَ جُرْمٌ صَغِيرٌ وَفِيكَ انْطَوَى الْعَالَمُ الْأَكْبَرُ. Do you presume that you are a small entity and the entire world is enfolded within you? That means that whatever journey you wanted to traverse to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't require you to go to Qom, for example. You know, if you're not able to go to Qom, doesn't require you to be in the haram of Imam Hussein if you can't be there. All it requires you is to develop a conscientiousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every step. Now, is this something that's hard? Yes and no. Because there are two things. There is internal veils, but there are so many external veils which reinforce the internal veils. What are the external veils? All of the distractions around us. We work and live in a world that's literally built and capitalized on your distraction, on your time. That's where the money is, right? So the people will always follow where the money is. The money is your time. And what you're doing is you're offering this priceless commodity, you know? And you're literally having, you know, people like Facebook and Instagram and companies like that overtake your attention when your attention is supposed to be devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything else that diverts our attention is supposed to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's only supposed to be pursued through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So first of all, like if you don't know where to begin, I recommend begin by trying to minimize the external veils. I'm not saying go off social media. I'm on social media. We're all on social media. You know, I'm not saying stop watching TV. I'm saying try to minimize these external veils which take away from our conscientiousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's presence and His watchful eye. That's just one step. And then as you kind of peel away the external veils, you'll find that it becomes a lot easier to peel away the internal veils, the veils of the self that keep us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Thank you. Thank you. Honestly, I think thought and reflection is key, especially now in the UK that lockdown is ending and we're all going back to the chaos of life and even the things in dunya, the beauty.
I think what's interesting, I think what's interesting to note is that with lockdown and with everything going on in COVID and during the pandemic, I think a lot of us, at least in the beginning, expected this to be a good time for us to be more reflective and contemplative because everything was sort of on hold. But I can speak for myself, and I feel like this is sort of a shared experience. I don't think a lot of us actually benefited from lockdown or things being on hold because I feel like in many ways we just found ourselves new distractions. And so there is this addiction to distraction, I feel, that's there regardless of lockdown. And you can still be home and still be like totally living in a virtual reality, totally disassociated from true life, from the true like experience of life and the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I don't think it's even a condition to be out and about anymore, right? It's like this presence can be lost even if you're on a prayer mat in your own room. It's not a matter of where you are, it's where your heart really is constantly wandering to, which seems to be our experience.
I think we've adapted in the past year and so to like a new kind of way of life and a new way of socializing and so as you said in the lecture, persistence is key, and if we really want it, we can reach the spirit, we can carry on in this journey and become stronger. I had a question as well. So you need to want to improve and to kind of become a better person, to be able to reach a certain level in your spiritual journey. But how can we help help others? How can we all have someone close to us. We have either a sister or a friend who believe and who care, but maybe maybe they're just they need that extra kind of help. They need they need someone to keep reminding them. Maybe they haven't had the background. Maybe how can we help that individual without being too pushy and without kind of sending them away from the religion? I know you need to need it from within, but how can you help someone to want it?
Right. It's a bit of a loaded question. I guess it depends on who, right? But I mean, so the idea is that, ذكر إن نفعت الذكرى. Remind if the reminder is going to be beneficial, if it's going to be beneficial. And a lot of times, in these situations, you have to really be wise, because there's a fine line between reminding in a way that inspires or reminding in a way that suffocates. And like you said, you have to want it within. So the question is like, how do we help people realize that they actually want it? Because they all want it. Like we said in our fitrah lectures, they actually all do want it. They don't realize they want it. So they're constantly mislocating their want of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in dunya and beauty and, money and relationships and all of these different things, for example. So it's like, how can I show them that they in truth want it? The first thing I say is like, okay, we said fitrah is a gravitation towards beauty, right? This is what everyone has, okay? Fitrah is a gravitation towards beauty. Your fitrah is constantly looking to beauty. And what did I say in my second lecture or first lecture? I said that this is a mistake we often do in our communities, is that we depict the deen in a way that's burdensome. It's no longer beautiful. And so people are pushed away. And we do this in our homes, we do this in our community. So I think really, if we really want to help people come to the deen, return to the deen, we really need to be living good lives. Like, I really do mean this. Like, we need to have, like, sisters need to, like, be living a good life. They, we can't leave, a beautiful, peaceful life, a joyful life, just for the kuffar, right? Mu'mins can have a good life. They can go out into nature, they can hike, they can have activities, they can have, community building activities. And it doesn't always have to be a lecture. It can be a ski trip. It can be, a zip lining trip. It can be so many things. It can be a travel trip. It can be a staycation with, kid-friendly staycation with, camping or whatever. This is one way in which really mu'mineen having a good time. This is I think, in my opinion, is the best way to re-invite people to the deen, because the deen is oftentimes nowadays, it's being painted as very burdensome and very heavy, and it's being juxtaposed to dunya life, right? Kufr life, which is supposedly very, very happy, which it's not, because it's so empty, these pleasures. People go home so empty after a night of clubbing, feeling so void on the inside. But then we have Islam that promotes so much of halal pleasures. Part of your day is actually supposed to be devoted to halal pleasures alongside worship and work. Imam says also halal pleasures. So what I recommend is, I think that we need to build more spaces where sisters, Muslimin sisters, really just come together and have a good time. And through that, maybe parcels of wisdom will be exchanged very informally. But just to create these spaces where they're together, I think will nurture the capacity for others to look at that and say, wow, like, yeah, this is a person who, yes, is religious, but look, like, they're so learned and they're still normal and they're still enjoying life and they have a community circle. So it's a beautiful way to depict the deen. Their fitrah will naturally incline to it.
Thank you for that, Sister Zahra. And inshallah, soon we can have you here in London with us for a live lecture. We can, all slowly go back to normal. Thank you so much for your time, and ma'joura, inshallah. And
thank you so much to you and all of the organizers and to all of the attendees. Thank you guys all for tuning in as well. Please keep my family and I in your dua.
And likewise, keep the OIF and everyone who has been benefiting and watching in your prayers. And Ma'joura, sister, thank you for your time and for everything, for all the knowledge you've provided us with.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. Thank you everyone for joining us, and inshallah these sessions have been a benefit to you all. All our sessions are saved on YouTube and on our Facebook page, Lebanese Youth Foundation. Inshallah, after Ramadan, we'll be having more events, and inshallah, we'll also, hoping now that lockdown's going to an end, that we can, have more social events, and we're planning a lot. فإنشالله, please stay tuned to our pages, and مأجورين inshallah, and from the Lebanese Youth Foundation, Eid Mubarak to you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.